Hey guys, welcome to this video where we will be talking about the harms of technology and social media addiction and how we can free ourselves of these harms to live a more fulfilling and satisfactory lifestyle. Firstly, I want to start by addressing the problem we have at hand here. I believe that social media and technology addiction is one of the biggest, if not the biggest problem that society is facing today in the 21st century. When I look at myself and when I look at all of the people around me, my peers and people older than me and younger than me, I see that technology has had a huge effect on how people live their life. Um, to talk about some of the harms I observe in my own life, I now find it much harder to focus and concentrate when it comes to schoolwork or any work that requires discipline and concentration. What I notice in the people around me is that most people have lost the concept of what actually is the main thing and the important thing in their life, which is to actually live. But now I see people who are spending most of their time on their devices, who are absolutely wasting their time and who are not aware of the stuff that's going on around them, who does not have situational awareness. As you can see in these two pictures, I think a lot of you have noticed that a lot of children or teens today, when they get together, they're not even talking with each other anymore. They're on their devices, or whenever you go on a metro or a subway, everyone is on their phone, not aware of anything that's going on around them. And even though we think that this is very normal, I see it that people today's humans uh, are attached to their phones. Like, it's kind of like they don't even have freedom. They're entirely dependent on their devices. And this was not the case 20, 30 years ago. It has happened very, very quickly, which I think is where the main danger is coming from. And going from the fact that you clicked on this video, I would also assume that you are aware of this problem, which I think is a huge step. But there are a lot of sides to the issue which has not been covered. So I think this video today will serve to show some of the unseen sides of technology and addiction and what it can do to humans. So let's continue. The first issue with technology is safety and privacy. I'm sure most of you have heard of privacy issues on the internet, of how people can access your information. But what I want to talk about today is more about how firms and platforms on the internet make money. So platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, games like Roblox, some of these free platforms. Have you ever wondered how they actually make their money? Because obviously everything is free. There is no product, but they make their money from two main sources. The first one is obviously ads. I'm sure you've seen the ads on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram before. Obviously, that's one way, but another way is through the data that they collect from social media. So, firms that obviously, for a firm to make money to sell a product, they need to know what humans like and what they don't like, right? And the best place to get this information is on social media. So let's say a firm wants to make is debating between making a red shoe and a black shoe, and they want to know which one's going to sell more. They want to know which one teenagers like more, for example. What they can do is they can ask YouTube to give them the data about red shoes versus black shoes, because obviously there are videos on the internet. Um, and YouTube can give them this data. And now you're gonna say, where does this data come from? Well, it comes from the fact that all of these platforms monitor every single thing you do every day on your device. Every video you watch on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, how long you watch it for, if you like it or not, if you comment, they watch every single thing, and they gather data from this, which they can sell to larger companies to make more money. It's kind of like this picture over here where a larger platform is monitoring every single thing the people using it are doing. And to be able to get the most accurate data and the most valuable data, these firms require you to spend a lot of time on their platforms. So the more time you actually spend on the platform, the more data you give them, and the more data they get, the more they make money. And to get you to spend more time on the app, obviously for years now, the smartest people in the world have been trying to develop strategies to get people to spend more time on their app. So what I'm trying to say here is that every day when you're on your device, when you're going on Instagram, when you're going on YouTube, you're actually going against years and years of thoughtful programming that is trying to get you to spend more time on that app or that platform. So what their main goal is for you to spend less time with your family, spend less time doing your homework, spend less time doing anything that's actually beneficial for you, and waste more of your time on the device, on the app, which doesn't give you anything in the long run other than like very short bursts of fun. And at the end of the day, they are the ones making money by making you waste your time, and like in the long run, giving you many negative effects in your life. And this quote here, I think, is perfectly illustrating my point here. If you aren't paying for a product, you are the product. So even though it seems like whenever we're on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, we aren't paying for anything and we're having fun, we're laughing, how wonderful is that? But actually, we ourselves are the product here. And it kind of goes back to the point I was saying about how we're like attached to our phones. And it has come to the point where we are the products for them, and they are making money off of us. So I want you to take away from this video today that we should stop being products for these platforms and gain our own freedom. The next point I have is about health. So obviously, I'm sure like the mainstream thing that's talked about when it comes to technology addiction is the fact that people spend less time outside and are inside and are not moving a lot, and they're sitting. And you might think, okay, I still go outside, I don't know, run sometimes, I work out sometimes. But this statistic that I found was very shocking for me. And it says that the average person in the US younger than 16 spends less time outside than the average prisoner in the US does. So a prisoner who's been taken to prison to take their freedom away, the prisoner that doesn't have any freedom actually gets and is allowed to spend more time outside than an average person in the US does, who has complete freedom. And this was a very scary fact for me. It kind of raises the question of what the real prison is. Is it our devices? And obviously, the main thing you can think about when it comes to technology and health harms is the fact that human beings, even though we have become so much more modernized, even though we have all these technological advancements, we are still the same humans that lived thousands and thousands of years ago, who ran away from lions and tried to live in caves and tried to hunt their own food. What I want to talk about here is the dopamine hormone. For those of you who don't know what dopamine is, it's the hormone that makes one feel happy. So obviously, thousands of years ago, this hormone would be released when we outrun a lion, or when we hunt a deer that we got to eat after. And that made us feel happy, and the body loves that feeling, so it wants to keep going back to it. So it's actually the hormone that allowed us to survive and come to today. And we basically wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for dopamine, because it's the thing that allowed us to keep chasing survival and kept us trying to stay alive. But now, in today's day and age, we get the same hormone whenever we watch a TikTok video or whenever we watch a funny video on YouTube that makes us laugh, right? And then, since the body loves that feeling, it wants to keep going back to it, right? And that's where the addiction starts, actually. And it's actually such a powerful tool because you get a huge burst of dopamine without giving any effort at all. At one click, you can get so much more dopamine. And it comes to the point where the only source of fun and happiness you get is from going on your devices. And that's like the most extreme case. But like, we as people have to realize that social media and technology isn't the only possible place where dopamine comes from. We could also get dopamine from hanging out with our friends, from working out, from accomplishing a difficult task. So we really have to train our dopamine receptors and the dopamine hormone in our body, and we have to learn to get dopamine from other things other than technology to break this cycle of addictiveness and repeat. And outside of this, obviously, the blue light that's emitted from the devices reduces the quality of sleep, and also kills your brain cells. So this is all I have for health. In terms of life skills, obviously the huge thing here, it causes procrastination. Instead of doing something that's actually beneficial for you, it seems much more convenient to stay on your device and get more dopamine. And this causes what I was talking about in the beginning, where it makes people struggle with their schoolwork or their jobs, or in doing something that's beneficial for themselves, because it seems it occurs to humans that, like, why should we spend time on our schoolwork or trying to improve ourselves when it's much easier to just sit and stare at a device that's just feeding you entertainment and fun. And I think also the main life skill that this hinders, and I think is the life skill that I think is the most important in a human, or one of the most important ones in a human, is creativity and imagination. You need creativity and your imagination in almost everything you do. When you're communicating with someone in social settings, you need creativity and imagination to socialize with other people. You need creativity when you're coming up with ideas, whenever you're trying to create something, or whenever you're trying to make a plan. Almost in every field of life, there's at least one part where creativity and imagination is involved. And how technology hinders this is by creating an environment such that we no longer have to think for ourselves. What I mean is, when we're watching a YouTube video or when we're on Instagram scrolling, at that point we stop thinking anything for ourselves, because everything is being fed to us. All the entire process of thought is being fed into our brains with a spoon. We laugh where the video wants us to laugh. We think what the video wants us to think. And we stop actually thinking, and we go into a mode of autopilot where we're just absorbing. We don't do anything. And so when we actually have to do something, when we have to create something, we have a much harder time because we got used to that feeling of everything being fed to us. And I believe this is kind of like a muscle as well. When everything is being fed to us as well, and we don't think for ourselves, uh, cut. And you might say, okay, how can we improve our creativity and imagination? And here I want to talk about the importance of boredom, right? Because, right, the social media is feeding us with everything. Uh, and that seems like no problem for us because we keep having fun and we are being kept entertained, which seems awesome. But it creates an environment where we no longer, as humans, get bored at all. And you might say, like, okay, why would we want to get bored? But that's where creativity and imagination is developed the most. People who have come up with the brightest ideas, who have developed the human race further, people like Einstein, Newton, Steve Jobs, or authors like J.K. Rowling came up with their best ideas whenever they were bored and when their brain was empty and had nothing that was being fed to it, so it actually had to create something of its own. And I think this is the main thing that humans neglect today. And if you think, okay, I'm not addicted to technology that much, uh, I still am free, I'm still not attached to my device, these problems don't apply to me. I just want you to try this exercise right here. So, uh, I just want you to try this exercise right here. Um, so I'm gonna ask you to close your eyes, and this sound is gonna play in the background. And I want you to think about how it makes you feel. So when you close your eyes, I just want you to daydream about anything, and let's see how this sound is going to make you feel. So close your eyes now. So when I did this exercise, I remember just closing my eyes and so when I did this exercise, I remember just closing my eyes and thinking of anything, thinking of my family or whatever, and these sounds kind of created shocks and impulses in my brain where I felt like, okay, who's texting me? Who's on my phone? I need to pick it up. Look, it creates a sense of panic, and I thought, um, even though we might think, okay, like we're not addicted to our devices, it has no effect on us. I realized at that moment that one little sound that comes from the phone being played creates that sense in my brain. It has so much control over me that one little noise can make me panicked and make me want to be distracted and waste more time by going on my phone, which I think is very scary as well. And the next thing I want to talk about is time. Um, you might think that like okay, you're spending at least 1 or 2 hours a day on your phone. Very small time you spend on your devices. It's not a lot. Doesn't have that big of an impact on your life. But I checked my screen time the other day, and it was 3 hours. And I was shocked that it was 3 hours because I never felt that I was spending 3 hours on my device. And I calculated um, how much it would be over a lifetime like those 3 hours, how much would they account for? And I found that 3 hours a day, if I kept going at this 3 hours a day, it would be um, 50 days in a year and 80 years of my remaining life that I would spend entirely on my device. Isn't that scary? 8 years of my entire life I will spend on my phone, solely on my phone. Not doing anything, not improving, not living, not spending time with my family, just on my phone. And if I was to cut this time by half, just spend half the amount of time on my phone, I would gain 4 more years to live. And obviously, this is assuming that I live until 70, which is the average. Uh, so, even though we might not think that it does, it actually does take up a lot of time from our life. The average in the US is 5 hours a day. And 5 hours a day is actually 13 days. 13 years of a lifetime. And 70 days in a year, which goes to social media, goes in the trash can. And I don't know, this fact is really shocking for me. We really need to learn to appreciate life and actually try to live while we're alive. Appreciate the moment and try to stay in the moment is, I think, very, very key and important in order to live a satisfactory and fulfilling life, but that's just my opinion. So, in terms of what to do now, I'm hoping this presentation has kind of shown you that it is actually a huge problem we're facing. Maybe you were aware of these things before, maybe you weren't. I wasn't. Even putting this presentation together allowed me to realize that it is actually doing a lot of bad things for me. But I think this is no reason to get worried, saying like, oh, it's having all these bad effects on me, and panicking. No, I don't think this is the point here. And I also want to emphasize the fact that technology isn't always a bad thing. Obviously, the invention of technology has been the most crucial invention in human history. We use it for education. We use it to make groundbreaking discoveries as well. I view technology as a double-edged sword, where if you could use it to your advantage, you could do a lot for yourself that's beneficial for yourself. But if you use it in the wrong way, if you just go on YouTube or Instagram and scroll, then it could hurt you a lot in the long run as well. And I think it just comes down to learning how to use it best. And I think that there is no secret recipe to do this. There is obviously going to be times where you're going to get distracted, where you're going to be on your device. But I think it all comes down to finding the balance, because I think everyone that's watching this video is clever enough and mature enough to be able to make that decision for themselves and be able to observe themselves in the scenario to know what's best for them and what they can do. But a few things you can do is obviously set goals for yourself, set a screen time on your device. Maybe finding another person to pursue this goal with you, where you could kind of challenge each other, saying like, okay, I did this for myself, I learned this. Even if you're gonna go on YouTube, even if you're gonna go on TikTok, try to watch things that at least will get you to think. At least don't go into autopilot. But I think that, the earlier you're aware of this problem, and the earlier you take actions to try to live a more fulfilling and satisfactory life, the better. So I want to congratulate you for watching this video, if you got to here, because being aware of this is a very, very huge step. Just being aware of it can get you a long way in overcoming this trap of technology. And the final message I want to give here is that, life is beautiful. Appreciate life. Live in the moment. Don't let these platforms and apps on technology and on your devices to limit your freedom, to limit who you are, because everyone has a huge potential within them. And I think realizing that is the most important thing in one's life. I hope this video has been helpful for you. And thank you for watching.